I've always had a wonderful appreciation for the work that Reverend Stacy, Reverend Festus, and all the folks who have come before do here. I got to tell you, to go into that mental space event and my poor wife, Francine, I mean, she's heard this talk. I've lost count. And the other day, I said, I'd like to do a quick run through. Would you like to hear it? She goes, no. I said, okay. So, oh my goodness. You know, it's just so wonderful sharing with you, and we're in this community together. That's why, you know, I didn't purposely say the words of there's one presence because I knew that there were somebody's here who would say, okay, it's supposed to be said this way. That's how we support each other. It's a cryptic example, but it's one way that we show up for each other. Are you with me? Okay. 2 weeks ago, when we started and you were on this journey with me, we talked about the concept of intention, focusing on how intentional tithing transcends a mere financial transaction. And I know when we talk about tithing, we kind of cringe up and the muscles get tight and all the rest of it. And I hope in that particular lesson that we loosened your body and we understand that it's the intention that takes care of everything that goes through. So in unity, we understand that tithing with intention aligns with our giving, it aligns with our core values, and affirms our trust in the divine flow of abundance. Somebody say abundance. Don't you just feel enriched when you say words like that? This spiritual practice enriches our sense of prosperity, and we heard Don talk about prosperity, our daily word this morning. It enriches our sense of fulfillment, and it's a demonstration of our power of intentional action. We also shared the importance of giving freely and giving with joy, and I submitted that if you come to this community or any others, or you're making a contribution to a different project and you go, oh gosh, I gotta reach in and give some, don't give it. Do it freely, do it joyfully, because I tell you that how we give is in direct proportion to what we receive. And don't you want to receive the best? Somebody say yes. We do want to receive the best. And then we ask you the question, what do you steadily expect? What do we ask Spirit for? We also said that whatever that particular thing is what shows up in our lives. And I'm sure you can take a quick inventory. I like using Rolodex. I'm old school. You can use the Rolodex, and you can go back through your mind, and you can think, you know, what I really was focusing on showed up in my life in almost exactly the way that I pictured it. How many of you have ever gone through that? We also mentioned that Spirit resides in each one of us, ready to respond to our ask of it. We said that the Christ within is always there. We don't have to go searching. We don't have to run downstairs to the break room. When we make the decision to make that change, it's a wonderful happening because Spirit is there already. It says, you know what, Paul, I've been wondering when you're going to get with me because I've been waiting. And the Spirit is committed to waiting for as long as it takes. I don't know about you, but that makes me feel really good. So Spirit is always ready to say yes. We're recapping, for those of you who weren't here the first Sunday, why weren't you? But we're recapping what we've been through so far. We also asked you to see that there is plenty of abundance in the universe. I mentioned that the scripture says, prove me now, herewith, says the Lord of hosts, that I will open the windows of heaven, give you so many blessings that you won't have room enough to receive it. Dave and Holly can attest to this. That's been borne out for me personally, for Francine and I. We've moved to a new home with their help, and there is so much stuff in our house, and according to the scriptures, there's no room in the new place to receive it. That's how Spirit works for us in our lives. We also said that because of intentional tithing, that Spirit is not a spirit of addition, but is a spirit of multiplication, blessing all that we give, blessing all that we receive. And then last week, I promise I won't keep you long. Last week, we looked at intention and right action, showing how intention can guide our actions like a navigation system, creating positive energy and fostering reconciliation. I talked about the three major areas of right action. The first is forgiveness, and I gave you a story of this employee who worked for this employer, and there was a circle of 30 peers and the employer, and they just eviscerated this employee. And he carried, or that person carried this grudge or this pain for years until one day that individual decided to forgive themselves first and then reported a freeing from that mental jail that individual had been in for years. The second is meditation and prayer. Number 3 was recognizing the divine presence in all of creation. I mentioned that choosing to forgive someone or even ourselves can be challenging, but we can and come out renewed on the other side. I can remember as we talked last week that my mother told me that God is in everything. God made everything. And I mentioned the old oak dining room table. I said, God possibly couldn't have made that. It's the heaviest thing in the house next to the fridge, and there were no refrigerators in Jerusalem, so there's no way that God made that. So today we conclude our series. We're looking at intention in building a spiritual community. Right here is our central place for collective intention and expanding our spiritual growth. Unity South Twin Cities is a hub where we can come together to share, to learn, and support each other in our spiritual journeys. I gave you a cryptic example of that as we opened. There's but one presence as we went through that. As we set our intentions within this church community, it involves committing to practices that help us. Well, Gerald, what are those practices? They could include doing what we're engaged in this morning. Earlier, there was, and they moved downstairs, a divine conversation. We used to call it the first service. Whatever you call it, is a place where we could come together in like mind and share ideas and hear engaging conversation. This morning, our Sunday programs, you can X this one out, but in our Sunday mornings at 10:30, we have wonderful opportunities to come together and listen to different programs and messages from the esteemed Reverend Stacy. And fortunate for a lot of you this morning, this will be the last of my 3-part series. You won't hear from me anymore during these next 2.5 months because I will be done with this sabbatical talk. But anyway, it's not about me. Building a solid spiritual community could also include creating and engaging in prayer and meditation groups and contributing in meaningful ways to the church's mission. Well, what are these? We've lived in so many places, and I'll count those as we go on, but Francine and I and Jasmine lived in Dallas, Texas. And it was this wonderful Unity Church of Dallas, a beautiful, beautiful place. I believe it's one of the largest in the country. The size doesn't matter, but there was a point at which we were looking to do some remodeling, and the senior minister at that point said, we need your help. And I'd like to call on the men of the church to help us. there was this little white house out from the church. And I believe, Francine, that's where they started the church before they built the final sanctuary. And so the minister called on the men of the church to come together and mastermind. And I thought, what the heck is masterminding? But it was bringing the tithes into the storehouse. This is what we're asking Spirit for. And there was a collective that happened. As we walked out of these meetings, we were all singing the same verse. We're all on the same beat. We're playing the same song as we went through that in that particular spiritual community. Is that making sense? It was an amazing situation. I was skeptical when I went through it initially, but I wish we had something like that here, not just for the men, but for our women too, for our children to come together in a collective idea to make changes, not only for this community, but for ourselves as well. Our contributions of time and attention include promoting and participating in spiritual education. And that's a big one, because it's through these classes that we gain a deeper understanding of our unity spiritual movement. And these are so important. The instructors will tell you, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, the instructors, and I'm looking at two of them here, will tell you that they get more from these instructions, from the class preparation and sharing and hearing from those students in the class than they could ever get anywhere else. Is that right? That's right. Okay. Didn't want to put words in your mouth, but I can see them changing as they're giving the instruction. I can see that I've been changed as I sit through these classes and labor through the paperwork and reflecting and coming up and sharing what we're learning and how Spirit is evolving through us. Francine and I, and many of us, have been taking these classes for years. We say we're Unity students. Yes, we are. But how deep do we really want to understand who we are and what Spirit does for us in us? In every community in which we've lived, Omaha, yes, there are black folks in Omaha. And there's still some there, even though Francine and I have left. In Dallas, Texas, I'm sorry, Yvette, Washington and Minneapolis, Reverend Festus, Ruth Fatur, Donald Curtis, the Rollisons, Reverend Edith, you know these. And my favorite teacher of all was someone I think you know, Loretta Taggart. Every now and then, she'd pull me aside. She'd pull me aside, and she goes, "Gerald?" And I say, "Yes, Loretta?" I call her Miss Loretta. "Yes, Miss Loretta?" She goes, "Is everything in divine order?" "Yes, it is." She goes, "Good." And then she'd walk away. Miss Loretta, I miss her. But she's with us this morning. There are so many classes and discussions available, like the one class, Discover the Power in You with Eric Butterworth. I've taken that class 3 times. The first one, I didn't understand what the heck was going on. The second one, I got an idea. The third one, now I feel like I am Eric Butterworth and I can teach this class. Jesus Healings, I'm in this one right now, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. Then Prosperity, Don Rollison talked to us this morning about the daily word in prosperity. And even Reverend Stacy has led classes, and he talks about the transformations that take place. This is not a commercial. My life in radio, it's about commercials. But these classes are so good. They're really good. And you can take them for self-enrichment. You might even discover that becoming a spiritual leader might be something that interests you. Building a spiritual community intentionally is what we're talking about, starts with each one of us. There's no community without you. So, we are the undergirding for everything that happens in our lives. The scripture says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven." And now I can hear you. There you go, talking about religion. Well, what does the kingdom mean in unity? It says unity in kingdom. The kingdom is harmony. The kingdom is peace and love. How many of us would welcome more peace, more harmony, and love? Somebody say, yeah. That's what the kingdom is. The kingdom isn't some far-off place in the by and by. I don't even know where the by and by is. But it can be if we don't know where to find it. There's a saying, and Howard, you probably know this. It says, if you want to hide some great information, put it in a book or put it in a class, because nobody will ever look there. That kingdom of peace, that kingdom of love, that kingdom of harmony is found in each one of us. And that's what heaven is like. I'm meditating and concentrating on that next line in the Lord's Prayer. We're taking this class over several weeks, and we're taking the Lord's Prayer line by laborious line and meditating and trying to understand the meaning of it. And Holly, thank you for your feedback on that this morning. So the line we're on now that says, thy kingdom come. I'd never given any real thought to it, but this morning, it's a test now, this is a class, we just mentioned what the kingdom is peace, love, and harmony. Can you imagine saying the Lord's Prayer, thy love, thy peace, and thy harmony has come? That changes the whole thing, doesn't it? Somebody say, yeah. So if we're searching out there somewhere for the kingdom of heaven, I promise you it'll be tough to find. I know I've searched a lifetime. The kingdom which has come is in us, is in each one of us. When we turn our thoughts inward and listen to that voice inside, we have found the residence of peace. We've found the residence of tranquility. We've found heaven or the kingdom. And the good part about this is that you don't have to die to get there. The true reality of the kingdom is from where everything starts. Lessons like today's and communities like Unity South are meant to help us to find that peace, to find that love, and to find that harmony. We're talking about building a spiritual community this morning intentionally. The kingdom is on the block where you live because it's inside us. Paul says that the keys to the kingdom are found when we renew our minds. It's found when we have that new thought. If we've been thinking old, worn-out thoughts that tear us down, rather than those thoughts that build us up, that's like, in my opinion, like living in hell. Who wants to live on that block? Wouldn't you rather live on a place where the thoughts are uplifting, that build you up rather than tear you down? We're invited to come up higher in our thoughts and in our own lives and consider and think on the possibilities, think on the best in us and in our circumstances and in our lives. Renewing our minds is a process that aligns our thoughts, it aligns our beliefs and our attitudes with higher spiritual principles. It involves releasing the old, worn-out, limiting patterns of thought and embracing a new, empowering perspective. And when we start to renew our minds, amazing things start to happen in our consciousness and for us. Here's what happens when you renew your minds. We notice that we are more aware of what we're thinking and their impact on our experiences. This renewed awareness allows us to consciously choose thoughts that uplift us and empower us. I was telling a friend of mine the other day, I bet you I can go out on the street right now, out here on First Avenue, and find 10 people who will say something negative about you and they don't even know you. Because we're wired that way. It takes more effort to say something uplifting about somebody. It's difficult to say things uplifting about ourselves, too. A renewed mind replaces negative, stale thinking with positive, affirming thoughts. This shift fosters a more optimistic outlook on life and enhances our overall well-being. I can remember, I'm getting older now, I don't remember the year, but we lived in Dallas, Texas, and our daughter had these bruises on her legs. And I took her to the doctor's office to see what was going on because she wasn't feeling very well. And the doctor says, don't go home. Go right to the hospital. You got to go right now. And I said, but no buts. Go right now. We took her to the hospital. Francine was traveling, I think you were in D.C. I'm not sure exactly where she was, but she was not with us that day. So it's me and my 7-year-old Jerea. We go to the doctor, and she's wondering why, what's going on. We get there, and they decided to hospitalize her. So I called our Unity minister, Reverend Ruth Fatur, Reverend Bob Fatur. Bob has passed on now. And they were trying to treat Jerea, and she's in pain, and she's crying, she's scared. And they were going there to pray for her. And they said, okay, we'll be back in a minute. And I thought you were praying for Jerea. They said, we need to see Jerea as healthy, as whole, as uplifted, as that vibrant young lady that I just saw last week. So they went into another room next door and prayed for our daughter. They were intentional in their thoughts. They were intentional in their affirmations for our daughter. When we intentionally align our thoughts with spiritual truths, we deepen our connection to the divine. And that connection brings us a sense of purpose. It brings us guidance, and it shows us the way to navigate through whatever it is that's in your life. And as a result, we get stronger. Our spiritual community gets stronger. And I would submit to you that this spiritual community, Unity South, is one that's super strong. Well, Gerald, why do you say that? Do you see these empty chairs here? Let me tell you something. Following the pandemic, there are so many spiritual communities that aren't here today. Some of you are here from other spiritual communities because what? They closed, they folded. But we are here because of the renewed minds like ours. And this community gets stronger every day, every week. New thought coming in because of the energy that's created here with intentionality for this spiritual community. We are that church. We are that beacon on the hill. We are Unity South Twin Cities. And I am so glad to be a part of it. As we renew our minds, it spills over from our spiritual community into the second phase, into our personal relationships. We'll find that we're more compassionate, more understanding, and that our interactions with those around us, especially in our families, start to improve. And the renewal doesn't stop there. This intentional community spills over into our family, it spills over into our hopes, into our dreams. We begin to relate the previously unrelated, and that's where the new thoughts are built. We begin to see the way forward when we couldn't see them before. As we intentionally align our thoughts, our dreams, and our aspirations with our highest good, your life cannot help but to change. So, building our community starts with intentionality. It starts with each one of us right here. But the question is, how do we start? I heard this talk this morning, but how do I get to be a part of this? Well, it is so simple that you can miss it. It's like when I first got involved with Unity, I was between jobs. They were firing me on the installment plan. And so in 3 months, you're not going to have this job. And I was like, oh my gosh, 3 months, I'm going to be fired. And so they said, we're going to help you. We're going to give you this outplacement firm, and they're going to help you. And I said, okay. So they flew me to Chicago, and they gave me this packet of information to read on how to get a job. They built the resume and all the rest of it. And I'm still thinking, I've only got 8 weeks to go before they fire me. Have you ever been fired on the installment plan? That was me. They gave me this book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. And it said something about you can think about something and it shows up in your life. That's not exactly what it says, but that was the idea. And I thought, how in the heck can I just think about something and I can change my life circumstances? That started my journey. I looked for other books, other information that could help me to understand, because I'm thinking this Napoleon Hill guy is off his rocker, but it led me to Unity. That was in 1983, and my life has changed for the better. So prayer and affirmation is how you start. You quiet your mind on a regular basis. That doesn't have to be a long thing. It could be, I am, and that's it. Everything works out well. That's my favorite affirmation that I say. I've said that before. Have a daily meeting with yourself. This helps you to connect with the divine within. And to get there, I just mentioned it. We close our eyes, not while you're driving, but close your eyes and say, I'm a divine expression of love and abundance. I am worthy of love and success. You may have just gotten fired, but I am fully employed. I'm making more money now than I've ever made in my entire life. I'm in perfect health. My granddaughter, who couldn't be with us this morning, is going to college in a couple of weeks. And I wrote a book called Your Words to the Wise. And she says, Grandpa, I'm going to take your book with me. Here it is on my tote, and I'm going to take it with me, and I'll read it for the next couple of months, and I'll be good. And I was like, no. It doesn't work like that. We're talking about a daily, lifelong application of these things. And she says, oh, okay, I'll consider it. So next we consider, she's 18, so, consider spiritual study and education. Read and study spiritual texts and materials that inspire you and uplift you. The daily word, you heard it this morning. It talked about prosperity. And in effect, that's what we're talking about this morning. And I mentioned, and the midweek services at Wednesday. If you're not here, you're missing out on something. If you have the time and your employment allows you the time to be here on Wednesdays, was it 11 o'clock? 11. George, have mercy. That's the time to be here. I mentioned the classes. I mentioned the workshops, the seminars that focus on personal growth and spiritual development. Coming to places like this, Unity South, where we are around like-minded people, is a great help. You don't even have to say something to anyone, but that energy permeates everything that happens in this place. Marlene Qualley, one of our esteemed Unity leaders here at this church, in this community, often talked about keeping a gratitude journal. You've heard her. This personal document helps us to acknowledge and appreciate the good that's happening in our lives. You don't have to wait to November, Thanksgiving time, to keep a gratitude journal. Like the song said, that's played out. No, you don't have to do that. Focus on gratitude, and when you do this, it causes a shift in your perspective from one of lack to one of abundance. It's also, and I'm sure if you've been around any spiritual community for any length of time, they talk about count your blessings. This is how you do it. You reflect, this thing happened today. I thought this thought today. I am so grateful for the things that are showing up in my life and what's yet to come. That's how you count your blessings. From our home, this way of living can even expand our career. It can expand your job or where you volunteer your time. Your work and volunteerism are extensions of your spiritual practice. Just ask Carol. Just ask Carlotta. Just ask Don Rambler. I mean, it's amazing what happens when you intentionally try to build your mental capacity. In unity, these physical places or areas of focus are seen as opportunities to express our divine nature through service and through contribution. Setting these intentions in employment or volunteer activities involves aligning our work with spiritual values such as integrity, such as compassion and service to others. It means seeing work as a form of ministry and an expression of our divine purpose. I see Missy here, and she is so thoughtful. She goes, how's that thing going with your radio station? She's concerned in this spiritual community about me. Why? Because her mind is being renewed day by day, just like yours. I promised you I wouldn't keep you long, so I'll wind up right now. I've got another volume yet to go, but we're going to stop here. Intentionality in building community is a continuous and intentional process. Somebody say, I got that. It brings about changes in our lives. And by adopting practices of affirmative prayer, positive affirmations, meditation, we can align our thoughts with higher spiritual truths, enhancing our spiritual connection, our relationships, and our overall well-being. As we renew our minds, we create a more positive, fulfilling, and spiritually aligned life, reflecting our true divine nature. And then everything comes together in our intentionality with tithing. Just setting that intention helps us to move into right action and building community in our church, in our homes, and where we work and volunteer and spend our time. And finally, we'll find that our life will begin changing for the better. We'll have a new walk. Our conversations and simply just the way we are in our lives will keep getting better and better and better when we live our lives with intention. And so it is. One question. If you believe that you can join me in this type of intentionality, somebody simply say yes. Let's close our talk this morning with a meditation. We're building intentionality. Find a comfortable position. If you like, close your eyes. Take in a deep breath. And as you exhale, let go of any tension or distractions. Focus on your heart center and bring to mind whatever your intention is for this church community, for your home, for your business, for your job, for your career, for your volunteerism, for your charity work. Visualize this intention manifesting in acts of love, support, and spiritual growth within your own network. Next, think about your home. Set a clear intention for creating a peaceful, loving, and supportive environment. See this intention unfolding in your daily interactions with your family and your loved ones. And finally, consider your work or volunteer activities. Set an intention to serve with integrity, with compassion, and with purpose. Imagine with me how your intention positively impacts your colleagues, your clients, and those you serve. And as you hold these visions, affirm silently, I am a beacon of divine intention, bringing love, peace, harmony, and service into every aspect of my life. Take another deep breath. And as you're ready, gently open your eyes. And so it is. I really want to thank you for being with me on this journey of intention over the last 3 weeks. And may your intentions guide you and transform your lives and those around you, wherever that may take you. And now, as they seem to be ready,